And that fear or confrontation was affecting her worries or her things with family and worries, things could be confronting how much she can do for herself. In a way, it's a self-therapy. You're having this brutal reassessment of what's true, what's not true, who am I, what it's not happening. So by the time she went through 2 years of this, then she started working through the astrology classes again and going over that's a lifeline. That's a good thing for the Pluto on the Mercury, a good place to put it, because there are a lot of other places where there was angry mind, fear, confrontation, and that blocks a positive progress. So she had to work through the dark side of thoughts and rethink things and think what's true, what's not, and figure things out for herself. But likely there were other concerns that were pressing on her mind. This was like, to learn the things she had to learn, she had to put up with other things. So this, it wasn't easy. Okay, but really, this is saying, you gotta stop worrying, but put a lid on it. Let's just get it. Go ahead. But at that point, there's too many specific worries coming up. It meant the Mercury squared by Saturn in Cancer tends to worry. So that's why I'm saying worries. It's just thinking for oneself what's true, what's not. She's doing an audit, Pluto, of her mind, not just her mind, how she thinks the world is, where she's coming, where she is, and she's going to be so hard on herself during this whole period. As you're attacking your own mind, it's not questioning, it's attacking, it's trying to fight things. And what's true and what's not true, but it's not being really supported that much. So there's tremendous growth in coming from this, but it's intense. It's challenging, and she broke through that by September, October last year. So that was maybe that was putting up with the beginning level classes again. I don't have to do this again. Oh my goodness, who knows? Pluto opposing the Mercury was at the first 3 levels of classes, the worksheets, the basic stuff. But that's a therapy. That's useful for that time. But I got through the houses, the aspects. By the time I got to Saturn transit, starting the Saturn transits, it was right here with the last Pluto on the Mercury. So, I mean, astrology is a therapy. That's perfect. So working through things through again on another level. What's real, what's not, that's all there. And it lifted by the end of 2018. So it's not in play now, and she's not being challenged for her thinking anymore. She'll never be challenged like that again. She knows what she knows. And she knows who doesn't know it, too. So, yeah, so there was some battle through these 3 years. And the classes are one thing, that might have been part of the battle, but it may have been relationships, it may have been career, maybe other things coming up through this. It could just be a fearful worry about money. Why I say that? Because the Mercury's in the 10th house in Cancer, ruled by the Moon in the 8th house of money and resources, opposed by Neptune. So the more you remember the natal chart and things, the more you can work this a little bit. And you start wondering you can see the Pluto. You see Pluto clear as anything. There it is. She's going through it. There's no question about it. She's going to know it's been happening. So Pluto's there, tough, but it's finished. She's finished her what's real, what's not, rethinking everything. And some of the Pluto things inside of this, it's like, the world sucks and there's so much news and there's so much harsh thoughts. And then is there a God or isn't there? There's a fight between what's real. And that's the essential, what's real? Is there God or isn't there? Are you in just a materialistic world, or is there deeper purpose or meaning and things going on? And there's a big fight for these things. That fight brings out incredible intelligence. But if it gets dark, if it gets negative and it surrenders to the negative, it can be really over-controlled worries that can make somebody, like, you can't keep going like that. So this was the reality check coming on and off. It could be a struggle with the way you're thinking versus the partner's way of thinking. Could it simply be like that? But there was the battle. She's just come through it. As soon as you're talking to someone in a consultation, immediately they're going to come up you start saying, what was this? And you may not know exactly what it is. Oh, that was I was trying to take the course, it didn't work, it wasn't what I wanted to do, or I was in a place that wasn't working, or somebody was fighting with me, or I had to talk to my mom, or I had to deal with an estate or other things. Like, just there's a whole changing of the way one thinks, having to look at reality. So it's a reality check. There's a newscast going on this whole time. It's not wrong. It was the right time for it to do. But with Pluto, it makes you afraid to look at it, it forces you to have to look at things, but you're not supposed to surrender. You're supposed to be honest and true and face of what's real, what's not, what do I do, It's like you're in boot camp for the mind during that time. And whatever wrong thinking was there is going to get pulverized or picked on. Okay, but then that's past, it's done. So that's the energy coming into the classes. That's a pretty good use of coming back into the astrology and what's really real and seeing it really clearly. You should be seeing more clearly at this time than any other time. However, when we get to Neptune, you notice 2015 is fine, but in 2016 and 17, she had Neptune oppose her Venus at the same time as the Pluto was square opposing the Mercury. Okay, so it's double trouble, double complex. I've just put in the outer planets, the inner planets, the personal planets. These are things that show personally this. They're not ones if it was to Jupiter, like I put the one to Saturn in here. I'm not sure why, because there was a conversation over authority, over work or something at that time. But you can't really, it's less, there's too many options of what Saturn can be. But when you get to Venus and Mercury, there's still a lot of options, but you really, Neptune opposed Venus should know what she wants. There's confusion. Neptune can make you very evasive about your emotions. It can make you very gullible about your emotions, codependent emotions. It can come out as envy. It can come out as vice. It can come out as over dedication. It can come out as, but it's gullible around. There's a question. There's a test of faith with Neptune. With Pluto, there's a confrontation over the truth, what's real. With Neptune, there's a test of faith. What do you believe? It's a test of belief. And this is emotional. Are you sincere? Do you have what you want, or are you trying to get away from what you want? What do you want? Are you what games you played? What's not? What's expected? What's not? This is the Venus. She has Neptune to her moon, so the confusion with the moon is the need for security opposed by Neptune. Here, this is the Venus about love and appreciation, which is affected by the moon, and now the values of what she is, they're changing. Pluto confronts and pulverizes anything that isn't true. Neptune dissolves things. So she had values, and her emotions have been locked up in the 12th house of Virgo, been analyzed and overanalyzed, and they were hiding in the 12th house of Virgo with Pluto and Uranus. Okay, and Neptune's coming along. What's Neptune doing? It's dissolving the old analysis, the old emotional analysis. It's like, it wasn't how I thought. Like, so there was a confusion and a changing of values, the old ones being dissolved, the old definition of things being dissolved. And with that dissolving, it's taking away some of the foundation of the thinking and the worrying. So if that's true, then what else? If this isn't real, then that one, then what? So like, these two are both working at the same time. They're interrelated. And I think perhaps this may have been a period of her being in touch with her mother in the last few years of her life. And her beliefs of how things were and what happened is tied up. There's no way in a relationship this is going to make one more passionate, makes one more aloof, more distant, more evasive. That can challenge a relationship too. So the confusion of what's real, what's loyal, what do I want, what do I don't want, what finances, what's happening. It's all confusing. Nothing's stable. They're not going to see clearly. You're not going to want, but you're going to feel hauntingly about these things. So I'm just telling you, we've gone through all of this. Pluto and Neptune, you've worked it on your chart. So it's just a reminder. These are you're going to wonder these same things. Could it be an affair? Could it be a confusion? Could it be evasion? Could it be, you can't be sure it's an affair. You can't be sure it's a deception, although it could be somebody could be deceiving her, or could she be deceiving herself or someone else? But the finances and the emotions her values are having a test of faith. There's temptations. Do I run? Do I stay? What do I believe? What I don't believe? And if she ran from the past and the mother, and do they connect across the lifetime? Do they reconnect, or what do you do? Her thinking is being forced to be really brutally honest. At the same time, her emotions are totally spaced in a way that Pluto Mercury is an anchor for the crazy Neptune Venus. But the Neptune Venus is dissolving old values and getting rid of old complexes, old 12th house complexes, old fears. And it's doing a healing work of removing old false values, old false beliefs, old false desires and wants. But it's bringing them up in her face, confusing and disorienting her while this is going on. So look at this. When you start seeing this, you start to ask, well, what's going on here? So you'd have to ask, and you'd have to see, because for someone else, they may have left work. Someone might have left work and just gone and been in a dedicated place and not been lived, not financially for a couple of years. Someone else could be on the street for a couple of years, not having anything. Someone could have no relationship, someone could have a relationship, not want it. Someone could have too many relationships. There's so many ways you can think of a Neptune to Venus. There's temptations, but it's really a test of faith, of belief. And Neptune's purpose is to dissolve whatever values don't belong. Pluto is to pulverize whatever thoughts aren't real. However, if you were thinking wrongly anyways, bam, 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 you have to look at it. At the same time, anything you believe you valued or you wanted that was true or not true, or anything, if I can't get this, I'll get this. If I can't have that, I'll have a chocolate or have a bottle of wine, thanks, or I'll have something. So this emotional complex would come up and cause a lot of sorrow, a lot of emotional sorrow and puzzlement to oneself. If you were living with someone that, you'd be wondering, where are you going? What's happening? You wouldn't know how to fix it with someone because they'd be pulling into their complexes. And it's like you had to go in and see these things, I feel these things. Something came up for a couple of years. It wasn't until 2018, spring of 2018, in the classes, we're starting to do the case studies of putting the whole chart together. We finished with planets, houses, signs, houses, just going into aspects, then interpreting the chart. But this, like in our classes, that was what was going on. But then the confusion started falling away by 2018. This guilt, confusion, dependency, all that financially, it's all emotionally, this is all fading away in this evasive time period, this confusing time period started to lift, like a fog lifting. During this time, you want so many things, or you don't want so many things, that it comes so intensely you can't see any big scheme as trouble. And you don't know where you are. So this tends to be evasive, like flaky, but haunted. But then they both started lifting about the same time, the beginning of 2018. And the confusion emotionally didn't come back. It's gone. The Neptune factor is gone. So she's steadily moving away from that point where old values got dissolved and left behind. And September to October, we start transits. We're starting transits in this class, but she finally did the rethinking on this. It was the last thinking about what's real. The confusion's past. So what she started with before the confusion, started thinking about, she had to think about it. Then the confusion came in on top of the confrontation. Now she's confronted and thinking and rethinking things at that time, being much more sharper where she is, what's real, what's true, what's not. But there's still blocks, it's still in opposition. Okay, the fear of using her own intelligence, her mind. So then it lifted. So by the time we got to the end of 2028, there's no more Pluto Neptune. There's not more pressure or cause coming in. So it was January, May, and November, I think. There were 3 hits of Saturn to the IC in this open period. So all this problem was building, what do I put up with, what do I put up with, until she actually got motivated at the IC. And then that lifted. Once she knew what she didn't want, and once she began to start moving towards her new motivation, that started to change. It changed these processes. Okay.